When I was younger, I should have known better, and I can't feel no remorse, and you don't feel nothing bad.
Welcome to Chronicles of Hope. I'm Emily Gray, and today we have a fun bunch, some colorful people. My co-host for today, and hopefully for a while, if he doesn't leave me, Aaron Kucharski with the National Council on Alcohol and Drug Dependence for New
Hi,
Jersey.
everyone.
Hey, Aaron.
I'm here.
We have another guest co-host today, Dawn Bellamarch she's the clinical director for Recovery Centers of America at Lighthouse.
Hey.
Just adding to the conversation. And our guest for today, our main interview, is Derrick Hale from Hope in Many Forms. Hi, Derrick.
Hey, everybody.
How was the ride?
It was not too bad.
How long?
About a half hour.
Oh.
Not too bad.
His ride was short.
You were closer than all of us, I
Yeah.
think. Oh,
I
maybe
want
not,
his
Aaron.
ride.
I had 20 minutes this morning.
Oh,
I know.
that's nice.
I got here early and meditated with the turtle outside.
Aw,
That's very
It's a
sweet.
good spot.
so holistic.
Yeah, I know.
There's a
appreciate
turtle
that.
outside?
There's a turtle outside.
There's
kind
a
of turtle?
lake.
We're going to go way off track real quick. I love it.
Are we just going to talk about turtles today?
I'd like to do that.
we
I enjoy
can.
turtles.
We can talk about turtles, or we
You
can talk about
Derrick.
our Chronicles of Hope, right? So today we have Derrick Hale, was highly recommended by a friend of mine that we should know him and know his story. And so I don't know Derrick. This is going to be fun. We're just going to play on my curiosity and your
Yeah,
curiosity, right, guys?
I like that.
Absolutely.
I know nothing about you.
Yeah.
I love
It's-
meeting new people.
It's going to be perfect. Yeah.
How are you feeling comfortable and welcomed in here, or are you feeling that awkwardness that we like and enjoy so much?
You know, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. You know, because it was bothering me when I first came in here and I met Aaron. I'm like, I feel like I know this guy. And I'm just thinking of Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad. You look like Jesse Pinkman.
I got.
you
totally
look
do.
like
Well,
Jesse Pinkman.
I landed.
Science.
I landed in LAX, and I had this guy that goes, Aaron. So clearly that's my name. And he thought I was Aaron Paul. And this guy starts
You kind of
snapping
talk
photos.
like him too. Like your mannerisms are a little like him. Now I can see it. Now I'm not.
Right? I'm
gonna
not
be able to
making
fix-
this up,
I
right?
should have been an
I'm-
actor.
I'm just gonna fixate on that. For
It's
the
funny
entire
because I
interview.
caught Derrick like looking at Aaron, and I'm like, "What's this about?" I wasn't sure like what was going on, and now it's all coming
Yeah,
together.
Mr. White.
It all makes
Yeah,
sense.
science.
It all makes sense.
Oh,
You
Well,
didn't know you're co-hosting with a TV star.
Look at you.
I appreciate you guys inviting me in here.
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
it's really cool what you guys are putting together, and it really is an honor to be sitting in this chair here. I can't wait to see what this becomes.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense for the show's called Chronicles of Hope, and your organization has a similar ring to it, the Hope in Many Forms, and I like the T-shirt, and I'm sure there's a story behind the T-shirt, and so I was pretty curious about where that came about and what it's all about.
Well, this Hope in Many Forms is a nonprofit organization for people who are artists and musicians in recovery from addiction. I founded this when I first came into the recovery process. Being an artist and a musician myself, I thought that this would be a cool idea.
Yeah.
To try and bring people together. I mean, music has always been something. The most beautiful part of music for me has always been bringing people together. And there's nothing more important when you're trying to recover than feeling a part of something bigger than yourself and feeling connected to other human beings. And you know, that's the whole idea. Just it started from the sofa of a recovery house,
Right.
and
So cool.
you know, it's grown into what it is today, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But
It's funny. I was looking at your website, and it just kind of mirrored the reason why we're even doing this show, right? Aaron and I were talking a little bit earlier about how important it is for someone to find something that resonates with them, that gives them some sort of meaning that helps them develop some confidence and self-esteem, because all of that is so important in hope, right? And looking to the future. And I love that it's kind of this inclusive idea that it doesn't really matter what it is. It can be in any form. That's why we're doing the show, is to kind of, there's so many different examples of people who find recovery and find hope, the hope that to give them the long-term recovery. And that's what we want to showcase here. So how fitting that you're here on one of our very first shows.
Yeah, it's really good.
No, I was just going to say that I think that was one of the things that drew me to this interview, and I thought was so cool about what you guys are putting together, because what you're trying to do is very similar to what we're trying to do, and expose the positive things that can come out of this process. You know, there's so much in the news now. You know, we're finally getting to the point where people are recognizing that there's a problem here, that we have our brothers and sisters are dying, and it's all over the news, and everyone knows that there's an epidemic, and everybody knows the horrors of what this disease can do, but there's not enough positivity out there. There's not enough organizations like you guys, or what we're trying to put together, that showcase that, hey, life goes on, and it's better than we ever would have imagined.
Right. And I think that's a good concept. I mean, as someone who works in the treatment realm, you know, they're internally, when someone's in treatment, it doesn't seem to the individual that there are a lot of positive activities to do in recovery.
Yeah.
So I think what you guys are doing is not only hopeful, but really sets a precedent for there are a lot of positive activities that you can engage in, you know, once you recover. So kudos to you guys for putting together an organization that helps highlight that.
Actually, and there's not a whole lot out there today
There's
for
really
people
not.
after treatment.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's the lack in what's going on today. I mean,
You know, there's a lot of talk about people who try, you know, they're funny enough that it took me into getting into the kind of role that I do now to learn that there actually are so many people out there trying to do things like this, and
Yeah.
organizations, more than I ever knew when I was working as a counselor or early in my recovery. It wasn't until I found, like, I was in a job where I could go learn about this stuff that, and I've had these conversations where, for young people especially, boredom and lack of meaning is such a huge
Well, that's-
trigger, right?
It's true. Like that piece that you were talking about, Derrick, about being on a couch in a recovery home, and like having this kind of come to you, where it's like, I was thinking about, I think the first 3 to 6 months or something in my early recovery, I was in a recovery home, and I had, at that point, like I had stopped playing guitar for a long time, and then, you know, I have the early recovery brain. I'm kind of just like picking up this guitar again, but it's like it's kind of like a lonely spot, you know. And so the piece that I'm really intrigued by about what you're doing is like there's this, you know, like what helps people maintain recovery is that sense of community, right? And so whether you find that community in a support group or in an artist community or musicians, and Emma and I were talking about this when we were talking about the show, where it's when you see somebody rediscover something that they're passionate about, or they're like, wow, there's this talent that I didn't know was kind of, it was pushed to the side for a long time. So were you a musician before you entered recovery, and like what, like...
Yes, absolutely. I was, well, I mean, mediocre at best, but
Right.
it was, it was a huge part of my life. You know, I was playing music since I was a kid. You know, I got my first guitar when I was in 7th grade, and I started a band. You know, I was in different bands throughout high school, and in college, I joined a band that we were, you know, I was the lead singer, and we were signed to an independent record label, and I got all these opportunities through music, and I loved it. And it was, you know, I toured up and down the coast. I was part of Vans Warped Tour and things like that. And, you know, I really just, I identified as a musician. It was part of who I am, or who I was. And I completely lost that in addiction. I lost myself. I lost my confidence. I lost, I lost everything really. I ended up losing my job. My, my wife at the time. I was with the same girl for 15 years, and I ended up homeless in the streets of Wilmington, doing all kinds of things I never thought I would do as a man with integrity and raised with morals, and just to get another one. And in that span of time, I was so detached from what I thought I was or what I thought I was capable of, and I had such low self-esteem and no confidence in any of my abilities, let alone as a musician.
Right.
You know, I didn't know how to be a person. I didn't know how to have a conversation, and just being so detached from the world and so detached from reality for so long. It's a very, very lonely place. And when I came up to Levittown, I finally reached out for help, long story short. And I came up to Levittown and went into a treatment center and started out in a recovery house, started my journey there. And I just so happened to bring this old acoustic guitar I hadn't picked up in years and years. I hadn't written anything in I don't know how long. And I just started writing. I started playing. And I slowly but surely, I rediscovered that, hey, I forgot I could do that, and I'd play for other people, and I could see how it brought all the guys in the house together, and everybody, they'd be at odds with each other. If anybody's lived in a recovery house, you know how much bickering and back and forth, and you ate my ramen, and you did this, and you're snoring all night, and I can't sleep, and I'm trying to all this stuff. And but when the guitar comes out and people are jamming, everybody comes together, and it's a very special thing. And I forgot how much I loved that about music, and I thought that there should be more of this. What can I do to make that happen?
Music is great therapy, man. It really is.
Absolutely. It's funny. I was talking to a gentleman the other day at the City of Angels event who works with youth, and he does these. In fact, I'm trying to get him on the show. He kind of brings people back to. He calls it art circling, where it's music and art and people come together. And he was talking about how just being in the community and working together, and like you relearn about yourself. And he had mentioned how everyone that he meets in working in the mental health world with youth, they're all artists. Almost every single one of them are artists, and so it makes you wonder like what that connection is, right? That enhanced sensitivity, or there's something there, right? A lot of times people come into recovery and they realize that they do have some sort of creative or artistic talent that maybe was never developed, or that they pawned. Like I always think of that, like not only did I come into recovery having pawned some material goods, but I also came into recovery having pawned my morals, my integrity, my talents. I was an artist as a kid, and I didn't like it about myself because it wasn't cool with the crowd I was trying to fit in with, and I pawned it. And it took years in recovery to rediscover and to accept that about myself. And it makes me, another question I have is for you, when you started getting back into your music, how important was relearning it and getting better at it and becoming more confident for your recovery, rebuilding your confidence?
It was extremely important for many different reasons. Well, okay, so I don't know how to explain this. So, first off, and I don't really know. I've told too many people this, but for personally, not even talking about performing or doing anything like that, or any of the ventures that I eventually went into, but just the rawest form of music. When I had moved to a sober house, and it was still just me and the guitar and this idea, and I started writing for the first time in I don't know how long, and that was the first time when I was writing a song about my divorce and everything that went on with the addiction. And these are things that, like, I've tried to talk to someone in my 12-step fellowship about. I've tried to talk to therapists about, talk to friends and all that kinds of stuff. And it really wasn't able to truly feel it and truly process it until I put it down on paper and I put it to a melody and then I felt it. The first time I actually cried was when that happened. I heard the guys coming home, so I real quick, but it happened. It's a real thing that happened, and it was the beginning to the actual healing process, because it was I spent years running from those feelings and numbing those feelings, and it's the first time I was able to do that. So it was huge in that aspect. But then after I started feeling like I can do this again and maybe I can share this, and I started sharing with other people,
Right.
it was a really powerful thing, because people were, oh, you know what, I relate to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where it snowballed with Hope in Many Forms. We started doing events that showcase people who are artists and musicians in recovery, and the event that we're doing soon again is called Speaker Jam Session. And if you're in a 12-step fellowship, you probably know what a speaker jam is. It's where the speakers come up and they talk for however long, 5-10 minutes, about their experiencing strength and hope, and then the next person comes up. It's similar to that, but we incorporate music. So our artists come up and they talk about their struggles and addiction, or a background of the song, or whatever, and then they'll play an original song about addiction or recovery. And I'll tell you, you can hear a pin drop in that room.
It's awesome.
That's it is like almost eerie listening to you talking about this right now for me, because I had this experience 2 weeks ago where like, for some reason, for as long as I've been playing music, I've always written instrumental and never have added lyrics or words. And like, for some reason there was this block, and I had like told myself, oh, I'm not a singer, or I don't write lyrics to my, and we do that in recovery, right? Like, we like set these like rules and these like, a lot of the barriers that we have to go through are ones that we have put there ourselves.
You put yourself in a
and,
box.
and so we've told ourselves this for like a very long time. And you were just talking about integrity, of like, like, you're a man of integrity, or a person of integrity, and I try to work my life the same way, where it's like, if I say I'm going to do something, I try to do it. But it's almost the same thing. It's like, if I say I'm not going to be able to do something,
Right.
then I don't do it. And that's something in recovery that's kind of like backfired. But the
That
reason
self-fulfilling
why,
prophecy.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and so the reason why I bring this up, where it's like, last week I was like, wait, why can't I write lyrics and make a song? And so it's my favorite songs are the ones that have like 2 chords, like maybe 3, like, just like the simplest song.
Those are the ones that make money.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm already a movie star, apparently, a TV star, so let's make some music. But I understand simplicity a lot more, and so I just start humming the melody.
Aaron, you understand simplicity a lot more. I love
Yeah.
it.
Humming the melody over these 2 chords, and like adding these lyrics, and ironically enough, it also ends up being about my divorce, right? And so maybe
Great
that's
minds
what this,
right here.
right? But then
Yeah.
but that
You guys need to start a
piece
support
about,
group.
yeah, I'm all for it. Or it's just like the whole station is just people
Divorce
calling out,
musicians
being like,
anonymous.
being like,
Divorcees.
I have all these multicolored keychains, but I don't have any keys anymore. Help! Yeah, we've been
That's
through it.
hysterical.
And so, but like that, listening to you, it's like when you are able to put yourself in a space in recovery to feel as vulnerable as the way that you did, even when you're like, you said your roommates came home and you're like, oh, I got to
All
bottle
together.
this thing up, right? And it's like, that's the natural reaction. And like, the more we shed that, I'm not going to share with other people, or I'm not going to share with the world, it restricts us,
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so their organization, finding a way to release stuff for people, whether it's music or through art, is really an amazing thing. But that piece about vulnerability,
Yeah.
You know,
It's
it
like
makes
when
me
you
think
feel that,
too
yeah.
about so there's that healing process privately through music that you both have found, and myself through painting, and I can relate a little bit in that vulnerability of like I've always been the type of person to create and do my art very privately and not share it with the world, right? And because when you share it with the world, it creates that vulnerability, it opens
Yep.
you up to criticism and rejection and all of those things that we're so afraid of, right? Because what do we know about addiction is that it's a lot centered in fear, right? So now in recovery, trying to be more authentic and more vulnerable. And also what I found too is, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this at all, but like putting it out there that I am, calling myself an artist
Right.
is uncomfortable because it sets some sort of expectation that
Right.
I don't know if I can live up to.
Sure.
Right. And so that's why I think it's putting on these events and these speaker jams. Like it's one thing to find your art in your music, and it's a whole different character building to
Yeah.
put it out
Sure.
there
Share
and
it with the
call
world.
yourself a musician.
It's a terrifying experience, but it's a
Yeah.
positive fear.
Nothing grows
It's
from
a-
comfort zones.
It's
And
a
it's an
very
outlet.
positive thing. It's really scary for people like us who we're our own worst critics. I know that when I'm writing music, I'll make so many changes and all this and that, and if I play and everybody loves it, I remember. I don't hear what everyone's saying. Oh, all this great feedback. I hear, that one note was I messed up that one note. I don't know if anybody
Right,
heard.
yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing as we do in the rest of our lives. But it's certainly scary to do that. But once you take that risk and then and you see what you're capable of, and then you step
Right.
back and say, not only did I do this, and am I capable of doing this? I'm doing this better than I've ever done it before, and I'm doing it sober. Like that's a huge
Right.
thing for musicians, for artists. It doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to do. If you're trying to do it for the first time in your life sober, that's a terrifying
Yeah.
thing. Like I said before, I spent a lot of time on the road, traveling, playing music, and all this stuff, but I've played to thousands of people, right? So when I had an opportunity to play to, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 people with an
Yeah.
acoustic,
So
and
intimate.
I was losing it. I was sweating bullets.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never done that before because I spent so much time hiding behind all these other things. You
Right.
get this liquid courage, you get the whatever your choice is. And then you feel like you need that in order to perform. I felt like I needed that to create, or I needed that to be on stage and be comfortable, And what I found was that there's nothing like doing this sober.
That's such a great point. I think a lot of artists and musicians have that fear.
Yeah, and
that
it's so
I'm-
inspiring. Like it is to hear you say like the impact it had on you. What is it like to know that you've founded an organization that can give that back to others? Like what is it like to see the inspiration on other musicians and artists' face, knowing that you've given them this platform?
It keeps me going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so inspiring to see how excited these people are, because that moment, that like aha moment of oh my God, I can do this. At our first speaker jam session we ever did in Bristol. There was this one kid in particular who he played, and it was the first time he ever played sober. And he's a phenomenal musician. He said, well, I don't know, when he called and asked if he could be a part of it, he was very reserved. And I don't know, I've never done this before, blah, blah, blah. He killed it.
It's
I mean,
awesome.
he absolutely slayed. Everybody loved it. And when he walked out of the room, I got to peek out the hallway. He was jumping up and down, like he was glowing, like he was glowing, and it was the most inspiring thing. And at these events, you meet people that see that it's possible. and people you wouldn't expect
Yeah.
anything to come out of. I remember this one girl. She was, the people in her recovery house said that she barely talked. She didn't talk to anybody. It was hard to get her to interact or whatever. In the middle of the event, she came up to one of us and said, "Listen, do you mind if I do some spoken word in between?" There was thing, and she had people in tears.
Wow.
Like it was. I had goosebumps.
I just got him right now.
Yeah,
I haven't even heard her. I just got him right now.
It's really like people in recovery are so much have so much more to offer than we give ourselves credit for.
We were just
Absolutely.
talking about how people in recovery are just some of the most talented people that you will ever meet in your life, and like when you're talking about that kid jumping up and down in the hallway, like that, like it's cool to witness that, and we all have our own versions of like what that is in our recovery, and like that's the piece about hope that I like, where it's like I have those moments in my recovery that I like would not trade for my favorite drink or drug. Like I would never, and so it's to like in terms of like looking at my own shit, it's like I just keep kind of like, when's that gonna keep? And it always comes. Sometimes there's like some sort of time that goes in between, but when it hits you, and so like I think that what you're doing is you're providing this avenue and this space for people to find that, and to me it's like, an artist can have like this blank canvas in front of them, or can have like an empty music sheet, a musician, and it's not even about like what ends up on that music sheet. It's about like giving people the space and the vulnerability to like to create that blank space in the first place. That blank music, like to get to that point. In the first place, and it's when you see it, like when you witness it, it's truly pretty special.
So Derrick, how have you seen your organization? I'm just imagining that, when I see someone else light up, and that inspires me, and I know that the person who's lit up is now inspired to go light up someone else. And so my question for you is, since its beginning, how have you seen this organization grow? And how are you seeing some of the people who started out passing it along to other people and bringing them into it?
Some of the people who have performed at our events, who said that they've never done that sober before. They've been on Radio 104.5. A couple of the artists actually moved down to Nashville to pursue a music career. And that's just as inspiring as some of the people who just say, I write poetry in my free time, after work, and it's meaningful to me, and I don't share it with anyone, but I wanted to let you know that I do this on my spare time, and it really helps me. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, it's your own journey, but just to know that you can do it again and be able to feel it, whether you share it or not is irrelevant.
So you're based out of Levittown, PA?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit how the organization works. Is it just events, or do you guys get together periodically? What do you do?
So we're just starting out. We just got our 501c3 as a nonprofit recognized through the government back in February. It was
That's
an
a tedious
uphill
process.
Yeah.
It was an
congratulations.
uphill battle of red tape and frustration.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, the times that I wanted to just put my head through the wall with some of the frustration that go into making that a reality. It's the moments that I was just describing, and the look in people's faces at the events that pushed us forward. Right now, we're just beginning, and we're focusing on events.
Right.
We want to provide entertainment for the recovery community. We want to put together more about like full band things, and just kind of break it up into different genres and have more like hip hop in specific genres. I mean, it's all kind of been lumped together in one thing, but as it grows, we have more people that are interested, and we have the ability to kind of break it up. We want to start doing even comedy events, and I mean that when you get sober, it's like what now? What do you do?
right.
You know, there's only so many times you can go to the diner. There's only so many times. You know what I mean?
Amen.
There's not enough. There's not enough, especially in early recovery. You know, if you do recovery the right way, you can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. Without having the urge to pick up a drink or a drug. You know, I knock on wood, on the 1st of July, I'll have 3 years sober.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And
Awesome.
you know, I have a pop punk emo tribute band I started. It's an idea I wanted to do for like 5 years. I'm going, why is no one doing this? And I play all the music that I grew up listening to, and we play bars all the time. We just played it at the Foundry above the Fillmore. We do these kind of things, and there's alcohol served there. But it's you have to get to that point. You know, if someone in early recovery tries to go in and play music at a bar or something, that could put them at risk. So in the interim, while you're getting to that point, it's like, what do you do? We need more events that are just fun.
Yeah.
And also positive.
How can
We need
people
to
get
talk.
involved? Yeah, exactly. I'm going to come out.
I'll be there, yeah.
How can people get involved, with Hope in many forms, besides coming to Levittown, or, how can people in recovery and people who just want to volunteer their time to be a part of the organization, how can they get involved?
They can, anyone who is interested can reach us at our website. It's www.hopeinmanyforms.org. We're also on Facebook. It's Facebook /Hope in Many Forms, Instagram @Hope in Many Forms. If you reach out through any of those avenues, there's links to sign up or get more information, and you'll be talking to one of us personally, and we'll see where we can fit you in and how we can help.
Right.
You know?
So you have a speaker jam you're putting together now. When do you guys have a date for that, for your next one?
We don't have a date yet. Because we're looking for somewhere with an air conditioning.
Preach.
Yeah,
All day,
there's
every
a-
day.
Where do you usually do it?
Well, we've done events at ProAct in Bristol, and and this last one was at a church on Emily Road in Levittown. We're open to different venues. I mean, really, it's about what's going to be a safe environment, what's going to be right for what we're doing. You know, if we're doing something with a big band, we're going to want something with a better sound system. So we're open to any ideas. So if anyone knows a great place to do music,
How about a
we'd love to
radio
do
show?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or another radio show.
There's a really
maybe.
out of tune guitar in the corner over there.
And maybe when we share
Just-
this, we'll get people
Yeah.
that step up and have space, that you can utilize that we didn't even think of.
That would be wonderful.
One of the things
Yeah.
I found is that there are so many people who have resources,
Yeah.
whether it's they know the right people or they have an empty room or they have, and so my hope is that after we get the show out there, that you will be contacted by people who can maybe partner with you and put on maybe some more speaker jams and help you grow this thing, because it's so important. I would imagine, I mean, we're already interested. We want to be there,
Yeah.
and so I would imagine,
awesome.
any way that we can support you, we're there. We're going to put the link up for hopeinmanyforms.org. We may even feature one of your videos.
be
Hopefully, we're
great.
going to get that in there. What else? Anything else I'm missing?
Well, it just wanted to say, in addition to the events, because that's where we're starting.
Yeah.
I also have a space that we're turning into a jam spot in our community.
cool.
So people who and it's funny you said about pawning at the beginning of this, because that's one thing. When I came up here, I had pawned everything that I worked really hard for, all my musical equipment, and I had no means to make any music. You know, the only thing I had was that old busted guitar, and the action was terrible on it. You know, so what we want to do is we want to put together a space where people in the community, in the recovery community, can come and play music, and they can use the drum set, they can use the ukuleles or whatever literature that we have there, or whatever space, and get together with people. You know, let's jam.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing? Let's make some music.
Community.
Yeah. So, are you accepting donations of instruments and things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Cool. Good deal.
We're accepting donations of instruments, time, and if you wanted to donate to the cause, there's a link to donate through our website and through Facebook.
Excellent. Derrick, I want to thank you so much for coming out today. You've been amazing.
Yeah,
You're a
it's been
trooper. And if anyone has any questions, you can check us out on the Facebook page. We'll make sure we put up all the contact information for Derrick and for Hope in Many Forms. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
All
Thanks,
right,
Derrick.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
In this room was my home group for about 18 months when I got clean again. So this room like saved my life. So I think that's kind of weird how all this happened, you know, like there's no such thing as coincidences and all that stuff. And Paul's here today with us. You're welcome. Thanks, Paul. And people I love, you know what I mean? And it's an honor to be a part of this thing. So thank you so much for letting us be a part of this. We too afraid to live. We too afraid to die. Spent my entire time here, wondering why.
This is an organization for people who are artists that are in recovery. There's so many people that are talented that struggle with this disease. I mean, like, there's so much talent out there. This started with me getting back in touch with music while I was working a program, a 12-step program in recovery. Music was always something that was huge to me. That was my art. And, you know, I was in bands before, you know, I was on a record label and did a bunch of tours. I would tour the country, and like I had all these opportunities, and it was a huge part of who I was. And in addiction, I just completely lost touch with that. I came up to Levittown to get sober, and you know, I brought an acoustic guitar. And it's, you know, I wrote a song in rehab that I'll play later in the evening for you guys. And, you know, I got an opportunity at this meeting/dinner event. It was a recovery kind of thing. They said, hey, could you play this at the end? And the 3 minutes and 30 seconds I had just to play to the few people that were there, it was enough to get me back in touch with that and say, wow, I forgot I could do that. So the money that we're going to raise tonight, we're going to put together care packages and everything, and food and all kinds of stuff, and bring it down to North Philly to people that are living out in the streets. And we're going to do things like that. We're going to have events that are coming up that all the money's going to go to the Philadelphia Police for Narcan. The end goal, the pipe dream of this is to have a place that we can do this on a regular basis.
My name's Aaron Kucharski. I'm an alcoholic. What do you say to a room full of people you never met before? I don't know, but I do know one thing. For as far back as I can remember, doing the wrong thing always was more attractive to me than doing the right thing. And that was long before I even picked up the substance. I heard someone say in a meeting one time, they said, you know, they just didn't see the big deal. We're just doing what everybody else does. We're just doing what normal people do, staying sober, getting jobs, you know, being productive members of the community to the best of our abilities. And I don't think we do what normal people do. I don't agree with that.
really was incredible. I mean, we have people with years of sobriety in here, and I was in the back signing blackout sheets because they said this counts as a meeting. I mean, this is awesome. This is more than I could have ever imagined.